I'm really just experimenting here to see if I have the same problems I did earlier, which probably isn't a good time to test it out since it's storming. And there's nobody here. So, oh, there is a person here. Am I choppy? Hope not. Um, oh no, it's the wrong color. I'm gonna tell you a oh my god, a funny social anxiety story that happened to me today, and this is exactly for someone who doesn't have it. This is what happens. So audio is choppy. Okay, hold on a sec. This will help. I don't know. I've never used it for anything. I feel a little strange. Can you hear me through it? Oh, well, anyway, of the two people who are here, I feel silly. Right across the street, like I just coming out from working at the animal shelter. If you've seen any of those videos, I have the last one going to be uploaded soon. Exactly how I left, and so um, I it's been maybe a month now that I took off on purpose to chill out, and so um, and I have been working on my own dog training program, and yes, I am qualified. No, I'm not bipolar manic thinking that I am qualified. I am. Um, I have this is I have a better logo and everything, but this is it's been I've been working on the manual, and I'm at the point where I have that done and I have it set up and I'm ready to take clients. And so right across the street, just like the street, this woman lives there and she has two dogs, and she saw the car magnet um that um is the advertisement for um One Smart Dog. And um she caught me in the street and was talking to me, and we were in the middle of the street and we were just chatting. I live in a rural area, so you can talk in the middle of the street. And for some reason, right there in the middle of the street, I felt fine. And, hands in back pockets, talking like, confident. And yeah, we can do that. I'll let you know when I have, because I hadn't completely decided on how much I was going to charge yet. And I'll let you know. And um, so, okay, so I decide on how I'm going to charge because I wanted to do it different. better than what they did at the shelter. And so I'm standing on my porch and I see her on her porch, and I cannot go over there. I physically could not get my feet to go over there and talk to her. So I got as far as my car, and I thought, well, I'll just, act like I was gonna go somewhere in my car, driving my car. And I got home and she was not on the porch anymore. And I'm like, I'm gonna be so socially anxious about this that I'm gonna lose her as a client. She lives right across the street from me. How lame is that? How lame am I? Why can't I do that? You know, people know I'm not a salesman, but I know what I'm talking about when I talk about dogs. So I was kind of embarrassed within myself, and um, for myself, and for someone that's had so many experiences in life. um, you would think it would be nothing for me to just do it. I mean, I'm telling myself, I know what I'm talking about. I know what I wanted this to be like, how I wanted it to be different. And I have it all ready to go. And I'm only doing things. Oh, I got to get better pictures for the different commands. I'm doing stuff to kind of delay. And I know that's what I'm doing. And then I'm like, so I gave in and went inside, took a Xanax, and waited half an hour. And then I was like, fine. I just walked over there easy as could be, knocked on the door, and no answer. And so then, and that was on the screen door. I heard her inside. I'm like, she can't hear me. And I'm going to have to open the screen door and knock on the big door. Oh my God. This is horrible. I'm like, tick, 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 tick. And like, she's going to think I'm rude or something. For some reason, I thought that was an awful thing to do. But anyway, she um, she came to the door and it was fine, and we talked and we got things arranged, and came back home and telling my mom, oh yeah, this is my first actual arranged um, client. I've had some phone calls and some people that are going to let me know. I haven't. Oh, there's someone that I need to get back to on Facebook Messenger, but but I'm like, am I gonna have to take a Xanax every time I go to somebody's house? I hope not, because the the nature of social anxiety is the anticipation. The, it's not. It's like you're so frozen you never do it, and if it's something you can't get out of, or you are dead set serious on forcing yourself to do it. um, yeah, that's what my brother did, Eric, when he had the same problem, and he needed more than Xanax to do, just going down the street to the store. Anyway, um, it's in that initial encounter, that first section is the worst, and then it kind of eases as you're talking, and or as it's happening, and in your brain, your logical brain starts to be able, at first it's completely blocked and it doesn't exist, and then because your anxiety is so high, and then when it gets down, because like you start and you're like, well, so far nothing horrible's happened. They even punched me in the face, looked at me like I'm an idiot. So it comes down a little bit, and then your thought processes can take over, and you're like, don't be silly, this is, and I still walk away anxious and jittery, and I actually have to like do something to calm down from the anxiety. um and take a deep breath, and I'm worried that I'm going to go through the same thing every single time, like it's not going to get better as time goes on. That but I mean, that's how I have lived my life. In school, when I was a kid, I remember vividly this girl. She was brand new. It was her first day. I had no friends. And I was just standing there by myself at recess, and she's sitting over on this merry-go-round. And I'm like, well, she's new, so she doesn't know that, nobody likes me yet. So I can go over there and say hi, maybe make a friend. And I couldn't move. I was just frozen. It was just agonizing. And I was so worried that somebody else was going to go up and introduce themselves and take her away. And um, and I was so jealous of people who can do that. Just walk up to people and say hi. And how I managed to, I would say I have probably spent 75% of my awake, sometimes asleep hours, anxious. If I don't have something specifically like social anxiety, which is torturous, it's not fair. It's just awful. And nobody knows how stuck that feels, that feeling that you can't just lift your feet up and take a step, open your mouth, and the more awkward you feel, the longer you go, just like, and um and then I found because my moods have been weirder as I've gotten older. They've changed and I've got a lot more mix going on. There's some anxiety that goes in there too. So, actually, since I haven't been working, it has, um, I would say, 2 weeks after, I started to feel some relief. But if I wasn't socially anxious, I was just in general at ill ease, like, um, just unsettled and unsure, like nothing was for sure. You couldn't trust anything, you couldn't trust anyone. And so for like 4 or 5 months. My favorite time of day was an hour after I taken my medication at night. And I just felt so much better and so relieved. And I'm all alone in my room where I am surrounded by things I like that make me feel comfortable. Um, but you know, it, it's weird. Anxiety is weird because, like, you try to hide, you think you can hide from it, but you can't. It always finds you. You can shut yourself up, or hide in games and TV and books and stuff, but it it always finds you one way or another. Um, uh, it and it gets worse the longer you hide. When I would say, see, 15 years ago, I was so bad. Um, I couldn't call to order a pizza. And I couldn't go up to a cashier to buy my stuff. I mean, just because she might interact with me. I was like an adult, and 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 I couldn't go anywhere without my mom, and I felt like a big time loser because I had gone from is I have so much potential to do really good things. Yes, it does become your new norm. And then when you feel better, it's a surprise. You're like, wow, if you just have a moment of, is this how everybody else feels? Wow, this is nice, never less. So, like, I did go to college, and I was insane the entire time. I made A's. Was nursing, and I'm not a morning person. I cannot function at 6 a.m. I'm sorry. That's minus everything. This is my circadian rhythm. And so I but I had to get up like at 5 to be ready to go to the meeting where I had the little meeting in my group where I had to talk about my patient. And then we had to be up on the floor by 7, and we were there all day. And one time, the uh-oh, I'm getting my message that I'm unstable. There's a storm outside, so if I start sounding like you can't understand me, let me know and I'll just stop. Um, and so I had the anxiety of the clinicals, is what they're called. And I was anxious the night before about what I was going to do the next day. So I didn't sleep and go, oh, I got 3 hours left. Oh, I got 2 hours left. And then it's time to get up and do this clinical. And I got really good grades, but I was completely and utterly delusional and manic, and just, I was nuts. I don't know. They mentioned once in my last year, 3 of my instructors were like, they were concerned about me, and I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm fine. And I graduated, and then I was an oncology nurse. And well, I didn't have any friends. That's the weird thing. Is as a young adult, so we're talking in my 20s, I didn't have many friends. But I managed to get engaged, And so his friends kind of became my friends. And I will say I'm very happy about that because um, that's how I was kind of introduced to like Dungeons and Dragons and the Hercules and Xena series, which are my favorites, and the whole fantasy way of thought. And I would paint the little figurines for D&D, like with two bristles on a brush and a magnifying glass. Um, and I got into that, but I never had any friends of my own. I had a job and I had cats, and but I had a really hard time. I would not sleep well when I knew I had to go to work. I worked 12-hour shifts, so I would work like 3 days in a row and then have a bunch of days off. And so on those bunch of days off, I would just be coming down. Um, um, I have, I don't know if I, let me get to it. I'm going out of sequence. I don't like to go out of sequence. Um, so, but I was so lonely. I think it's more lonely to be with someone who has friends and they're not really your friends. And when I was a teenager, I had friends. I had real friends. We were punk rockers, so I fit in. I was weird. So that was easy. But when you get to be 20 and 30, it, it just isn't cool anymore and it's harder. I don't care. But anyway, so so that was really hard working. I love working with the patients and I was good at my job, but I was in a state of high anxiety the entire clocking in, going into each room, the anxiety shot back up. It was a new experience each room I went in, and I would only have like 3 or 4 patients because we had specialized care. And but I did a good job, but it really took its toll on me, and that's when the bipolar um, came out, and I had to stop working, which in a way was good for me, and in a way it wasn't. Because then I got depressed because I felt like a loser. I didn't have any friends then, so that's in my 30s. I lived at home with my mom because I really couldn't be alone. I wasn't stable. It's in and out of the hospital. And a big part of it was that I was lonely. Um, I mean, having friends does relieve social anxiety. I mean, if they know you have social anxiety and they kind of get it, then that's a big help because then you have someone that you can go and you can have a anxious experience and you have someone you can let that out to, and it takes a little bit of the burden off. But if you don't have anybody, you can't, you keep questioning yourself if you're being, if under, if you're realistic or not, because you know that you're unreliable. You know that you're completely unreliable on deciding if a certain event is about or if something other people would. And and Eric, to let you know, I don't have any friends. Well, I have one person I consider a friend, but it's not like we go hang or anything. But it is somebody that I know that if I needed to talk, she would be there. Um, but um, um, So then, then there was a point where I was stable, bipolar wise, and I moved into this little apartment with my dogs, and the cats went to my grandparents to live in Texas, and my dogs. And I was good until nighttime, and I would have panic attacks. And my mom was living in Texas, and I would call her in Texas, and just be freaking out, just panic attacks out of the blue. And it turned out to be, in big part, the Seroquel before they came out with XR. It Yeah, they are. And there's nowhere to go. There's no one to go to. You're alone. I thought I was gonna die. Yeah, I really thought my heart was gonna stop beating because what was happening, it was an unusual. This effect is the Seroquel was making my blood vessels dilate, and so my heart was beating harder and faster, um, to keep the blood flowing, and it felt like it was gonna come right out of my chest. And then I have the storm panic attacks, and it could be 2 a.m. and I'd have to call my mom in Texas because there was a storm, and crying and just a freak out. And um and then I started going to the shelter. I started working at the shelter, and I moved into a house. My mom kind of lives downstairs and I live upstairs situation. And I was really proud of myself, and it took quite a while, but it became easy, and I wasn't, oh, there were things that made me very, very anxious, like when I had to make a difficult phone call, like to tell someone that we chose someone else for the dog they wanted, or a difficult person that I had to call. But I was just able at that point. It was probably the most capable I had ever been with the social anxiety because it never went away. I would just say, "This is going to suck. I'm going to be ready for it to suck, but it's only going to be a few minutes, and then I'm off the phone." And I go find a quiet spot to do it. And but that took a while to develop that. Um, and then um, stupid, stupid people, the whole thing that went down in my videos, you'll hear about the harassment that I endured, and I made kind of funny with it, because I had the little paper things, but it was actually really traumatizing. And that's when I started to feel the general unease. So what we've got the social anxiety, the evening time anxiety, because in the daytime I'm engrossed with something, but as soon as I'm done, I freak out about the world. I freak out that people die. I'm gonna die. My mom's gonna die. She died right now. I mean, it's a constant battle in those themes. I'll be on the highway driving somewhere I go all the time and just be like, someone could just ram right into me and it'd be over. And this gives me this general disease, this like uneasiness, like I don't feel safe until I get home and in my room and up here where the stuff is, where I put it and where I want it. And so there's the social anxiety, the the death and dying, and there's um, like existential anxieties and um, panic attacks. In the car a lot. Yes, you know. Oh, then you know, and I'll get like, it's so awful. Excuse me, because you panic. Yeah, and then I'll get like tunnel vision. And I'm like I'm in the city and there's all this traffic and these people are just going by me, and I get that tunnel vision from being so anxious and the adrenaline and the driving my thing. Um, and he lived way far away from me, and at a time when I was making money and stuff, had a job, and luckily I was able to help him out, and I paid for him to get around by Lyft because he had PTSD as well as social anxiety, but he couldn't get in on a bus. He would panic if he got too far away from home. Like, and I know exactly what he was talking about. Um, I'm going to get lost. This is how I used to panic in my car. It would happen mostly if I was to get lost. And it's like, I'm like I'm never gonna get home. And that's sick. But um, and I'm not even really sure that's like if I was thinking that specifically, like, but that's what it felt like. I'm gonna get lost. I'm never gonna find my way home. Until I did get to a point where I was able to tell myself, um, well, see, that is before we had smartphones or any phones. So it's made the anxiety with driving is a lot better because I do have a phone. Um, but do you have someone to call? I mean, what good is a phone if you don't have someone to call? And so um, right now I do, like my mom, but one day I'm going to be certain age. She is not going to be able to hop in her car and drive to the city where I'm having a panic attack on the side of the road or whatever, you know. Um, who do I call then? This makes me very anxious thinking about that because it's one thing to be anxious about being in some kind of trouble or predicament, but when you have that and you know that there's no one to call on to at least talk you through it, you know. um, because I'm fortunate to have my mom, and she fortunately doesn't think that I'm a burden. I know at times I was, um, but So I'm anxious about the future. And then that's when I start thinking, I was like doing a stream of consciousness, but really I'm talking about all the why I feel anxious like every minute of the day except when I'm asleep. And sometimes anxious when I'm asleep, when you wake up and you feel like you never slept. Um, I get anxious. Um, I just thinking of see that's why I had the topic the other time. Adrenaline hangovers. That's good. Yeah, they are. Um, um, I had the topic to talk about was um, the difference between being suicidal and just not wishing that you had never been born. And that's what I mean. That's about where I'm like, I feel like that when I'm having a really bad social anxiety moment and I'm sort of kicking myself over it. And I'm like, I don't want to feel this anymore. I have felt this for so long. And from what is described to me is what I was like even as an infant. I have been anxious, I mean, like all my life. And sometimes it's like you would think that you would get better, progressively better and better and better, but you don't. I'm sorry to be a downer. It's like with each new situation, you have to work yourself back out of it all over again. And so, like, when I was that little girl wanting to talk to that other little girl sitting on the little merry-go-round, frozen, and I couldn't get over there, was the exact same thing as me standing on my porch and not being able to go over to my neighbor. It's always going to be there. I can do all the journaling, gratitude journaling, self-esteem journaling, talk therapy, um, cognitive behavioral therapy, um, and it's easy enough to say, well, I'll just accept it. But when you feel it, it's just horrible because you feel more than anxious. You feel like a, you know a loser. Um, I know that my brother, when he would go out with friends when he was a teenager, he could only like be fun and have a good time when he drank, and that became his coping. Every event, everything, he was like, yeah, let's break out the beer. He wanted everybody to be drinking so he could drink without looking conspicuous, and then he could relax and socialize. Well, at 44 years old, he died from just alcoholism, and it all came down to social anxiety. Some he said he had he had PTSD, but I think it had that was a little bit too thank you, um because for guys, I think it's harder uh, to have social anxiety. I'm not a guy, I wouldn't know, but I think socially is less expected for a man or a male boy to be quiet or anxious. They're supposed to be confident and outgoing and um, easy, and girls, it's okay for them to hang back and be quiet and be shy and that. And so, and he really loved his friends and being around his friends. But I found out that was because he had the same thing as I did. Um, he didn't like being alone. He was just terrified when he was alone. He had that same doom and like I said, the existential stuff happening. And so he would drink alone. Um, um, Fortunately, I was spared the um, the addiction gene. I really do think there is such a thing. I don't think it's a one or the other, but I do think that there is something about it because I have three brothers, and um, we were raised in the same household where there was drinking, a lot of it, and two brothers, one that I just mentioned passed away from alcoholism, and um, one who's living who does has the occasional drink. He doesn't get drunk ever, or even tipsy that I've ever seen. Just on special occasions, he'll have a couple drinks. And I have an older brother, um, and he struggles with substances and alcohol. Um, and I fortunately missed it too because didn't get the gene because when I was a teenager, I did party um, on the weekends and stuff, and it never went outside of those bounds. And and then when I became in my 20s, the hangovers were like days long, and I found out it was because I was allergic to the hops or something. I don't know, some kind of weird thing, and so I just stopped. I never drank again after that. Like it was a New Year's because I just felt so awful. So I just stopped, and I've picked up smoking and put it down whenever I want. Um, I've taken Xanax for years, many years, and for anxiety, and it's never um is I've never gone outside of the